Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I hope everyone is doing good. I'm going to keep this one quick. I'm going to be to the point. I want to keep this one under, let's say, 8 minutes to speak my piece. That said, if you guys find yourself enjoying the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon, or if you want to support through the show through Super Chat, you can do so by Streamlabs. This is going to be a plea to Trump supporters. I was going to say an ode to Trump supporters, but a plea to Trump supporters. I'm going to be more humble than that. A plea. I'm going to throw myself before the first faction of Trump supporters that I see. Just throw my body in front of them and have them drag me back to whoever their leader. But let me speak my piece from the standpoint of what I want to say, because whether you realize it or not, your guy is being led astray. Your guy is being led astray. I hope you can see it. How can't you see it? Are you that blind to what's taking place politically to realize that the person who you put in that office, and in some respects put in that office because you thought he was less hawkish than a Democratic person, is being led astray? The moment that John Bolton started whispering in his ear, the moment that he picked Mike Pompeo and John Bolton to be the imps to dance around and put nothings in the reality show's ear, what did you think John Bolton was going to say to Donald Trump? Do you think John Bolton was going to say something different to Donald Trump than John Bolton saying to the media the terrifying shit that he says that comes out of his mouth? We're going to be celebrating in Tehran, which is essentially saying we are going to have regime change in these countries. He doesn't hide it. He says it in the open. So what do you think he's actually saying to Donald Trump? My sense of the election when Donald Trump was elected was, oh my God, a reality show host has just won the presidency, but Hillary Clinton just lost the presidency. It was both of those things at the exact same time. It's a bizarre emotion, but I'm a human being. It is what it is. Emotions aren't necessarily always one thing or the other. They could be different. But my sense was that he seemed less hawkish on issues of Syria, even if he was more hawkish on issues of Iran. Now, his instincts seem to be less hawkish, meaning the impromptu, I'm going to pull my troops out of Syria with a collective freak out of all the people around, and all of a sudden an automatic chemical weapon strike. When Trump took office, he seemed that he was less interested in this kind of military conflict in Syria. That said, the political winds themselves forced and compelled this behavior. Now, you could say that he was too weak of a president to withstand the political winds, because the withering attacks by the Democratic Party saying that he was somehow sexually attracted to Vladimir Putin, these attacks hit bone at some point, because they constrained his behavior and constrained his actions. There were certain things that he was not allowed to do based on the political winds or the political argument of him needing to push back against the narrative. He didn't necessarily want to play into the narrative. These things have real political consequences, especially from the standpoint of international politics. It constrained his behavior, meaning it's possible that he would have had the political weight to say, no, I don't believe this was a chemical weapon strike. I need more evidence for it, as opposed to being forced and compelled into the behavior, not wanting to be called a Putin puppet. So yeah, he wasn't strong enough to withstand those particular attacks. And this has inched him further and further into conflicts, even when his own instincts says, get the fuck out. Get the fuck out. You're in somebody else's country. I remember this guy. Do you remember this guy? That's one Donald Trump. Many Syrian rebels are radical jihad, not our friends, and supporting them doesn't serve our national interests. Stay out of Syria. Well, that same Donald Trump is in Syria right now. And not only is that same Donald Trump in Syria, that same Donald Trump is issuing threats to the Syrian government about taking Idlib, which is in Syria, by the way, and houses tens of thousands of terrorists. That's where we're at. Many Syrian rebels are radical jihadis. There are, even by the UN's estimates, tens of thousands of terrorists in Idlib. And Donald Trump is threatening Bashar al-Assad and Vladimir Putin of taking back their own territory. This is fucking amazing, but this is where we are. Now, you may have some Trump supporters that says, hey, we're doing this for humanitarian reasons. I would ask you, why do you believe we're doing this for humanitarian reasons? And you would say, well, the United States believes in justice and light and unicorns. And then I will show you the Tillerson memo, which sheds more light of reality of our interests in various parts of the world. The May 17 memo reads like a crash course for a businessman turned diplomat, and its conclusion offers a stark, realistic vision that the United States should use human rights as a club against its adversaries like Iran and China and North Korea, while giving a pass to repressive allies like the Philippines, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. Allies should be treated differently and better. They're adversaries than adversaries. Otherwise, we end up with more adversaries and fewer allies, argued the memo, written by Tillerson's influential policy aide, Brian Hook. That's the reality of our interests around the globe. There may be some people who are looking at this who are blown away by that. I don't know why you would be blown away by that. That makes all the sense in the world, that a country will work towards its own interests, whatever those interests are defined by the people who are in the power. The reason why I think Donald Trump is being pushed into this, and yeah, I am giving him the benefit of the doubt, to some degree. Not fully, but to some degree. Right here. This is the anonymous hit job that was laid on Donald Trump. I am the resistance! A neocon resistance. I love it. It's amazing when the neocons can end up being in the same resistance with the Democratic Party. What does that say about the Democratic Party? Right here, this part in the memo is important. Take foreign policy. In public and in private, President Donald Trump shows a preference for autocrats and dictators such as President Vladimir Putin of Russia, North Korea's Kim Jong-un, and displays little genuine appreciation for the ties that bind us to allies like-minded nations. Astute observers have noted, though, that the rest of the administration is operating on another track, one where countries like Russia, called out for meddling, punished accordingly, and where allies around the world are engaged as peers rather than ridiculed as rivals. On Russia, for instance, the president was reluctant to expel so many of Mr. Putin's allies, so many of Mr. Putin's spies as punishment for poisoning of the Russian spy in Britain. He complained for weeks about senior staff members letting him get boxed into further confrontations with Russia, and he expressed frustration that the United States continued to impose sanctions on the country for its malign behavior. But his national security team knew better. Such actions had to be taken to hold Moscow accountable. Deep state. When people talk about deep state, I don't like to use the term because it's given this kind of mystical quality. But ultimately, the president of the United States wants to do one thing and has a certain, perspective and point of view, and his team is essentially going in the opposite direction. It seems as if Trump, this guy, still exists, but he doesn't have the strength, the force of will, and personality, because let's be honest, he was a reality show host before this, to deal with the adults in the room, in which case they take him down another track. Whatever you want to think of this, you're being conned into a larger conflict. What is taking place in Idlib right now, if you attack Russian forces and Syrian forces as they go about taking back Syrian territory, because let's be honest, the United States is in another country illegally. Russia has been allowed into the country. Iran has been allowed to the country because they've been offered, essentially requested help. We are not. We are in it illegally, by our own laws and international law. Syria hasn't attacked us. We have been attacking Syria. We've used the pretext of chemical weapon strikes without having evidence of chemical weapon strikes, going for the last few chemical weapon strikes. We have a psychic, Nikki Haley, who is screaming and howling at the top of her lungs that if there's a chemical weapon strike, we know it's Bashar al-Assad. A wink and a nod to say, hey, if you got the goods, do a chemical weapon strike. That's the way we can get involved. Trump and Biden have been coming out saying, we will get further involved if there is a chemical weapon strike. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Bolton have even gone so far as to say, we've talked to our allies, France and Britain, and we're ready to go. Now understand, this is the last stand of the terrorists, and the Western powers are fighting like hell in order to protect the terrorists. This should give you an idea of who are your friends. If these are your friends, what does this say about you? What does it say about your intentions around the globe? I guarantee you, if you talk to any of the people that are in Syria, even people who are against Bashar al-Assad are not for the terrorists. That gives you an idea on which side is on the angels. It's not that Bashar al-Assad is a good guy, it's that the terrorists are horrible fucking people. Between this idea of a rapist and a killer as opposed to a certain degree of stability, you choose the person that's not the rapists and the killers, or at the very least is fighting the rapists and the killers. And for whatever reason, we've ended up on the side of protecting the bloodthirsty, bearded maniacs. If the United States comes up with this idea of the chemical weapon strike, Russia has already said, we don't believe it, this is a false flag. Both sides are coming up with two different sides of reality. It doesn't matter which side is right. The moment that one side strikes, the other side is going to respond in kind. The fact of it is, I've made the point again, we're in that country legally, not the other way around. And Russia has already given a red line. Russia will shoot down U.S. missiles fired at Syria and retaliate against launch sites, says ambassador. This was April 2018. I guarantee you that their policy hasn't changed. They have beefed up the number of forces that they have, ships and all, in that area of the globe. The United States has taken on more provocation, having live fire exercises in that region of the globe. Understand what's at stake here. Whatever you need to say to get your president to wake the fuck up. They are trying to start a large-scale conflict, and that is what they're going to start if this keeps going. This is a degree of brinksmanship. If you believe Russia is joking, I think you've lost it. There's no way that he can stake the political capital on a red line like this and not follow through. Whatever takes place from the standpoint of the United States, if the United States carries through with its threat, it's going to be automatic. It is automatic. This is not a situation where the political actors in the situation can step back. This will be automatic processes. You need to fully understand what's taking place. They are dragging you into a larger conflict. And people are acting as if this cannot take place. I think you're full of it. You're lost it. All of these conflicts, you understand that all of these wars, they thought World War I was going to be over within the course of a few weeks. They didn't think it was going to last at all. Even the Second World War, they didn't necessarily think that it was going to come to fruition in the way that it did. This is not the Cuban Missile Crisis with JFK at the helm. This is a reality show host with John Bolton whispering in his ear. All of these events, all of these almost conflicts, whether it's with North Korea or even what we have right now, has been precipitated to some degree by the way Donald Trump has acted in the military capacity. Yes, I am with him on this thing of peace thing with North Korea. I was with him with the peace net with Syria. Your person is being led astray. That's my point. I'll end it here. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the Patreon. Thanks all.